So then guys, it's been a while since I have read two first parts of reading Goosebumps, Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns by R.L Stine. I hope you guys enjoy it so far. I hope this story seems quite funny, haunted and funny, obviously enjoyable. We're going to continue reading this book of the Goosebumps, Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns by R.L Stine. Shall we continue on chapter 15 on page 63? We stepped up onto the front door step and peered through the glass storm door. A big orange cat with bright blue eyes stared back at us from the other side of the door. I rang the doorbell. A few seconds later, a smiling young woman in jeans and yellow turtleneck came hurrying to the door. She carried a bucket of Snickers bars and Milky Ways. "You all look great," she declared, dropping the chocolate bar in each bag. "Drew, hold up your bag," Tabby ordered shrilly. "Oh, sorry. I was still worrying about Shane and Sheena." I held up my bag for the woman. A cat narrowed its amazing blue eyes at me. "Are you supposed to be a princess?" the woman asked Tabby. "No, I am ballerina," Tabby replied. "And you are a lump of coal?" the woman asked Walker. "Something like that," Walker muttered. He didn't do his dark and stormy night routine. I guessed he was worried about Shane and Shane too. "Have fun," the woman said. She pulled the storm door shut. The four of us jumped off the doorstep and started across the frost-covered grass to the next house. When I glanced back to the door, I saw the cat still staring at us. The next house was dark, so we crossed the lawn to the house next door to it. A group of kids were already on the front doorstep, shouting, "Trick or treat, trick or treat." "Where are they?" I whispered to Walker. He shrugged. "If they don't show up," I started, but I saw Tabby watching me, so I didn't finish my sentence. We waited for the kids to leave. They climbed up to the doorstep. Two little kids, probably 3 or 4 years old, were handing out little bags of sweets to everyone. For laughed at Lee's bee costume. They wanted to feel the Anthony. The little boy asked Lee where his dinner was. I stuck to it in someone, Lee told him. They stared hard at Walker's all-black outfit. I think it kind of frightened them. "Are you supposed to be a monster?" the little girl asked Walker timidly. "No, I'm a lump of coal," Walker told her. She nodded seriously. We hurried away and did 3 more houses to end of the block. I saw 2 kids that I babysit for. They were in the marching robot costumes. I stopped to talk with them for a minute. Then I had to run catch up with the others. They had crossed the street and had started doing the houses on the other side. A strong gust of wind fluttered my cape. I shivered and glanced nervously at my watch again. Where were they? Where were Shane and Sheena. The whole plan depend on them. Well, pretty good, Hal, so far, Lee declared. Held his bag open, studying a contents such as we crossed the street. Did you get any Kit-Kats? Tabby demanded. I trade anyone for Kit-Kats. Only one person gave out the apples, Lee said, making a disgusted face. He reached into his bag and pulled out the apple. Then he heaved it hard as he could across the garden. The apple hit the tree trunk with a loud thunk. Then it bounced into the next driveway. Where do people give out apples, Lee? Grumbled. Don't they know? We only want sweets. Some people are just cheap, Tabby said. She pulled out her apple and dropped it in the grass. Then she kicked it with a toe of her ballet slipper. They both really deserve what they're going to get. I thought they're both really jerks. But they are? Shane and Sheena. We trick-or-treated our way down a block. It was getting pretty late, and there were fewer little kids out. The street light near the corner was broken. We stepped into the patch of dark shadow. One of the Lee's antennae kept slipping off. He slid back into the place for the 10th time. As we neared the corner, the tall tree blocked the moonlight, and it grew even darker. Oh! Let out the cry as the two figures leaped out at us from behind the tree. I thought that Todd and Joe had returned, but I quickly saw that it wasn't those guys in the grey blur. The two figures turned their backs on us, blocking our way. There were dark robes that flowed straight down to the ground and over their heads. Over their heads, there were pumpkins, large round pumpkins perfectly balanced on their shoulders. Whoa! Walker let out the startled cry. He backed up and stumbled into me. Tabby and Lee gasped in surprise, but a most horrifying surprise was yet to come. As they slowly turned to face us, jack-o'-lanterns' faces came into view. Airy, jagged grins cut into their pumpkin heads, flashing triangle eyes, lit by flames. Bright orange and yellow flames danced inside their heads. And as the pumpkin heads turned their fury, ragged grins on us. Walker and I opened our mouths and screamed in terror. Our screams echoed down the block. The fly flashed in the pumpkin head's eyes. I turned to Tabby and Lee. The light from the fury jack-o'-lanterns' faces flickered over their faces. They stood calmly, staring at the grinning pumpkin heads. Tabby turned to me. Is this your idea of a joke? Were you trying to scare us? We know it's Shane and Sheena, Lee said. He tugged at one of the dark, loose, flowing costumes. Hey, Shane, how's it going? The two pumpkin heads remained silent. How do you get the fire to work? Do you have candles in there? Tabby demanded. How can you see? The pumpkin heads grinned back in silence. A lick of fire darted out from one of the jagged mouths. I shivered. These costumes were too good. I can hear the flames hiss inside the big orange heads. The costumes were dark green, like a pumpkin vines. Why aren't Tabby and Lee frightened? I wondered. I expected Shane and Sheena to appear in something frightening, But I didn't expect anything as good as these fairy jack-o'-lantern heads. Costumes were great, but I felt so disappointed. Tabby and Lee were definitely not frightened. This Halloween is going to be a disaster, like the obvious, I thought. I stepped up inside beside Walker. I couldn't see his expression under all that black makeup. How do they do the fire? He whispered. It's a really awesome. I nodded, but it didn't scare Tabby and Lee. I whispered back. It's early. Walker whispered. Shane and Sheena have just started. My cape had become tangled around my legs. I tucked it free and tossed it behind me. The two pumpkin heads still hadn't said a word. Tabby picked up her trick-or-treat bag and turned to me. You have to do a better than this if you want to scare Lee and me, she said with a sneer. We are not scaredy cats like you two, Lee boasted. Flames darted out of the pumpkin head's eyes. They both tilted their big heads as they stared at the Tabby and Lee. How did they do that? I wondered. How did they control their flames? Do they have some kind of remote control? Well, are we going to stand here and freeze? Or are we going to trick-or-treat? Tabby demanded. Let's do your block, I suggested to her. Tabby started to reply, but a hiss of fire from the nearest pumpkin head made her stop. Let's go somewhere else, the jack-o'-lantern said from somewhere inside the pumpkin head. His voice came out in a hoarse crackle, too hushed to be a whisper, a dry, choked sound. Somewhere else, his partner echoed. Her voice also came out in a hoarse crackle, like dry, dead leaves being crinkled together. Excuse me, Lee cried. We know the better neighbourhood. The first pumpkin head crackled. The jagged mouth cut through the thick pumpkin flesh didn't move. The voice hissed from inside. The orange and yellow flames tossed it in a rhythm to the words. We know the better neighbourhood, a neighbourhood you won't forget. Tabby laughed. She rolled her eyes. Oh, wow, scary voices, she said sarcastically. Oh, I'm shaking, Lee teased. He and Tabby laughed together. Give us a break, guys, Tabby said to the pumpkin heads. Your costumes are pretty good, but they didn't scare us. So, lose the creepy voices, okay? Yeah, Lee agreed. Let's do some houses. It's getting late. Follow us, one of the pumpkin heads hissed. Follow us to the new neighbourhood, a better neighbourhood. They led the way down the street. Their back heads bounced on their shoulders as they walked. The fire flickered from their heads, casting a glow like lighted torches. What are they doing? Walker whispered. In my ear, this isn't in the plan. Where are they taking us? I didn't know. We walked 3 blocks, heading away from our houses. We passed a row of big stone houses set back on right lawns behind the tall hedges. The next block had an empty plot where someone had started to build a house and then stopped. The 2 pumpkin heads walked quietly, taking long strides. Their heads bounced on their shoulders. They kept their furry faces straight ahead and didn't glance back at us. Where are we going? Lee demanded, jogging to catch up with them. He tucked and one of their shoulders. You're passing a lot of good houses across the streets. The jack-o'-lantern creature didn't slow down. Let's try the new neighbourhood, he crackled. Yes, his neighbour hissed. A new neighbourhood? A better neighbourhood, you'll see. They led us past an empty plot, past a wall of small dark houses. Where are we going? Walker whispered. He motioned to Shane and Sheena. What is their problem? Where are they doing this? They are starting to scare us. I'm sure they know what they're doing, I whispered back. I gazed around the block. I didn't see many other trick-or-treaters. It was getting late, and most of the little kids had already gone home. In the next driveway, 2 tall kids, a gorilla and a chubby clown were pouring for their trick-or-treat bags. They had their heads lowered to the bags. We passed by them, and they didn't even look. Hey, we're missing a lot of good houses, Lee protested. He pointed to the brick house on the corner. Can we stop there? Those people always get giving out handfuls for the sweets. Really? Handfuls? The pumpkin heads ignored him and kept walking. Hey, whoa, stop, Tabby demanded. She and Lee both trotted up in the front of her pumpkin heads. Stop, come on, whoa. A new neighbourhood. One of them, quote, Let's try the new neighbourhood. The other one echoed, the better neighbourhood. A chill ran down my back. Shane and Sheena were acting so weird. I tucked my cape off a clump of weeds. The air suddenly felt colder and damp. I wrapped a cape around me. Up ahead, Lee fiddled with his bee antennae. I saw that Tabby's ballet slippers were soaked with mud. We followed the pumpkin heads across the street, and they stepped off the pavement and started to walk into the dark wood. Walker hurried up beside me. Even through his heavy makeup, I could see the worried expression on his face. Why are they taking us into the wood? He whispered. I shrugged. I suppose they are getting ready to scare Tabby and Lee. Twigs and dead leaves crackled under our shoes as we made our way between the trees. A frightening thought flashed into my mind. I suddenly pictured the 4 fat people who had disappeared. 4 people vanished into thin air, never seen again. I remembered all of my mother's warnings. I remembered how she told us to stay where they were a lot of kids and a lot of bright lights. I remembered how she didn't even want me to go trick-or-treating tonight. This is wrong, I realised. Mum's advice was smart. We shouldn't be walking through the woods tonight. I know. We shouldn't be away from a street, away from a brightly lit houses. We shouldn't go off by ourselves like this in the dark, creepy woods. A new neighbourhood. A pumpkin head crackled from up ahead, just past these woods. The other one whispered, a really good neighbourhood, you'll see. The light from inside their heads flickered. Either the dark tangles of bare trees and tall weeds. My heart began to thud. I hurried to keep up with the others. Shane and Sheena are good friends, I told myself. I'm sure they'll know where they're going. But this isn't what we planned. This isn't what we all planned at all. Why do we have such a bad feeling about this? Sheena, give us a break, Tabby complained shrilly. Look at me. Look at my ballerina skirt. She held up the front of her skirt. Even in the damp, dim light, I could see the mud stain on the front. We've got to get out of these woods, Tabby wailed angrily. Yeah, it's too dark, and we wasting too much time, Lee agreed. His trick-or-treat bag got caught on a low tree branch. He tugged it hard to pull it loose. Sheena ignored the complaints. The big, furry pumpkins bouncing on their shoulders, they made their way steadily and quickly through the darkness of the woods. Three minutes later, we stepped out onto the narrow street. Seeing the bright street lights and a row of little houses, we all let out a happy cheer. Now we can trick or treat. One of the pumpkin heads croaked. I turned my eyes up and down the street. I saw house after house, all small or on tiny lawns. Most of them had lights on in front. Many of them were decorated for Halloween. The houses stretched for the blocks. Two rows of brightly lit little houses, as far as they could see. This is an awesome neighbourhood for trick-or-treating, I declared, starting to feel a lot better, a lot less frightened. Excellent, Lee agreed. We'll clean up here. Where are we? Walker demanded. How come I've never seen this neighbourhood before? No one answered him. We were all too eager to get started. I pulled some wet leaves off my cape and straightened my mask. Tramping through the woods had messed all of us up. We took a few seconds to get our costumes in better shape. Then the six of us hurried up to the first house. The young woman carrying the baby in one arm came to the door. She dropped a miniature chocolate bar into her bags. The baby stared at the flaming pumpkin heads and smiled. At the next house, an elderly couple took forever getting to the door. Trick or treat, we shouted at the top of our lungs. They raised their hands to their ears. I don't think they could stand the noise. I'm sorry, but we don't have any sweets, the old woman said. She dropped nickels into our bags. A nickel per bag. We hurried across a small garden to the next house. Two girls, about 7 and 8, greeted us at the door. Awesome costumes, one of them said to Sheena and Sheena. They gave us a little bag of M&Ms. This is cool, Lee declared as we hurried to the next house. The houses are so close together, Tabby added. We can do 100 houses in no time. Why haven't we ever come here before? Walker asked. Trick or treat, we screamed as we rang the doorbell on the next house. A teenage boy with a long blonde hair and an earring in one ear answered the door. He sniggered at our costumes. Cool, he muttered. Then he dropped a packet of sweets into our bags. On to the next house, and the next, and the next. We did the next block, stopping at every house. Then we covered 2 more blocks. The little houses seemed to stretch on forever. My trick-or-treat bag was nearly full. We stopped at the corner because Walker's shoe had came untied. While he bent down to tie it, we stopped to catch our breath. "Hurry up," a pumpkin urged Walker. Flames leaped angrily for his eye holes. "Yes, hurry," the other one hissed. "No time to waste. Give me a break," Walker murmured. "I have a knot." As he struggled with his shoe, the two pumpkin heads bobbed and squirmed impatiently. Finally, Walker climbed to his feet and picked up his bulging trick-or-treat bag. The pumpkin heads were already leading the way to the next block of houses. "I'm getting a little tired," I heard Lee whisper to Tabby. "What time is it?" "My bag is nearly full," Tabby replied with a groan. She shifted a heavy bag to her other hand. "Hurry," a pumpkinhead insisted. "Lots more houses to do." Lots," the other one hissed. We did 2 more blocks, both sides of a street, about 20 houses. My bag was filled to the top. I had to carry it in both hands. Walker's shoelace had come undone again. When he bent down to tie it, it ripped in his hand. "Now, what am I going to do?" he muttered. "Hurry," a pumpkinhead insisted. "My houses, I'm getting tired," Tabby complained, loud enough for everyone to hear this time. "Me too," Lee agreed. "And this trick-or-treat bag is getting heavy. Stupid shoelace," Walker muttered, still bent over his shoe. "I suppose it's getting pretty late," I said, gazing around. "I don't see any other trick-or-treaters. I think they have all gone home." I pulled off my cape. It was all tangled and it was starting to choke me. I balled it up and tucked it under my arm. "More houses," one of the pumpkin heads whispered. "Hurry, lots more to do." The other one insisted in her dry, crackling voice. The yellow flames danced inside her head. "But we want to quit. We want to quit," Lee whined. "Yes, we're done," Tabby agreed shrilly. "You can't quit," a pumpkin head snapped. "Huh?" Lee's mouth dropped open. "Come, keep going. You can't quit." The pumpkin head insisted. They both appeared to float up, to rise up over us. The fires raged in their triangle eyes. Their heads floated up over the dark, caped bodies. "You can't quit. You can't ever quit." "Ha! Very funny." Tabby rolled her eyes. But I saw Lee step back in fear. His knees seemed to buckle, and he nearly dropped his trick-or-treat bag. "Another block," a pumpkinhead insisted. "Another block, and then another." "Why, wait a minute," Tabby protested. "You can't boss us around like that. I'm going home." She turned and started to walk away, but 2 pumpkin heads moved quickly to block her path. "Let me go," Tabby protested. She darted sharply to the right, but the big pumpkin creatures floated with her. Their furry grins appeared to grow wider, brighter. The 2 of them began circling us, floating slightly. They swirled around us, faster and faster until it looked as if we were surrounded by flames. A wall of leaping flames all round us. You will obey. Come, came the crackling command. The flames pushed up from behind, forced us forward. We had no choice but to obey them. We were prisoners of their fire. An old man was standing at the door to the first house. He grinned at us as we stepped on to his front door. You kids are out pretty late. Aren't you? He asked. Verily, I replied. He dropped packets of charcoals into our bags. Hurry, a pumpkinhead urged as we crossed a wet grass to the next house. Hurry. Lee's trick-or-treat bag was so heavy, he dragged it along the ground. I carried mine in both hands. Tabby complained to herself, muttering and shaking her head. We did both sides of the block. I didn't see any other kids out. No cars came by. Some of the houses were turning out their lights. Hurry, the pumpkinhead insisted. Lots more houses, lots more blocks. No way, Lee cried. No way, Tabby repeated. She tried to sound strong, but I heard a tremble in her voice. The jack-o'-lantern faces loomed over us once again. The fiery eyes stared out at us. Hurry, you can't stop here now. You can't. But it's too late, I protested. And my shoe keeps coming off. Walker chimed in. We don't want to trick-or-treat anymore. Tabby told them shrilly. You can't stop now. Hurry. Lots more houses. This is the best neighbourhood. No way, Tabby and Lee repeated together. They started to chant, no way, no way, no way. Our bags are full, I said. Mine is starting to tear. Walker complained. No way, no way. Tabby and Lee chanted. The two jack-o'-lantern lanterns began to swirl around us again, circling faster and faster. We're building a wall of flames. You must not stop. One of hissed. You must keep going. They swirled closer, so I could feel scorching heat of their flames. And as they swirled, they began to hiss, like snakes about to strike. The hissing grew louder, until it sounded as if we were surrounded by snakes. My heavy trick-or-treat bag fell from my hands. Stop! I screamed at them. Stop it! You are not Sheena. Fire leaped from their eyes. Their hisses became a high wall. You not Sheena, I shrieked. Who are you? They swelled to a stop. A bright flame leapt out of their grinning mouths. Their frill walls bounced off their trees. Cutting through the heavy night silence, who are you? I demanded again, my voice trembling. My whole body shook. I suddenly felt as if a cold of the night had seeped inside me. Who are you? Have you done something to our friends? No, replied. I turned to Walker. The light of the flames flickered all over his face. Through his black makeup, I could see his frightened expression. I swallowed hard and turned to Tabby and Lee. They were both sneering and shaking their heads. Is this your idea of a stupid Halloween joke? Tabby demanded. She rolled her eyes. Well, did you really think Lee and I would fall for this? Oh, I'm scared. I'm scared, Lee cried sarcastically. He made his knees knocked together. Look, I'm shaking like a leaf. He and Tabby let out loud laughs. These are really clever costumes, great fire effects. But we know it's Shane and Sheena, Lee declared. There's no way you're going to scare us straight. No way, Tabby repeated. Look. She and Lee reached out their hands. They each grabbed a pumpkin head and tucked. Whoa! They pulled the furry face pumpkin heads off the creature's shoulders. And then all four of us screamed because the two costume figures had no heads underneath. Okay, so I'm going to stop there on page 86 from page on chapter 20. Looks like we're getting close to conclude the story of the Goosebumps Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns. I hope you guys find that story very interesting. Sounds like a lot creepier. It's when Walker and Drew, Sheen and Shane had been trick-or-treating in the new. It's about going to new best neighbourhoods. They didn't go to the dogwoods because it's quite frightening. Okay, so we've got to continue for Goosebumps Attack of Jack-o'-lanterns. Okay, guys, so I wish you a happy early Halloween and see you on a short while.